Good afternoon, welcome everybody to ISE 2017. Here once again in Amsterdam in Hall 5. We're with our friends on the NEC Display Solution stand, R24. This afternoon we have a couple of industry consultants. We have John Zib from, he's going to tell me where he's from in a minute, but he's an urban media specialist that we met last year at the show. One of the people that Mike Blackman and the show organizers have done a good job of attracting. John, tell us a little bit about what an urban media specialist does.
We study the use of media in urban environments. Technology has certainly changed the face and the realities of urban space. It's also changed the way that we relate to each other and to the spaces that are around us. And an urban media specialist tries to find new ways to use the media in different ways. And I'm a social entrepreneur, and I focus on how we can use those media for social benefit.
Now we met last year when you came to the show for the first time, and you were attracted. You wanted to look at, some of the digital signage people, the kiosks, the totems, the outdoor specialists. What did you find last year that was of interest that has brought you back again this year?
Continued growth in the market. I'd say different features and technologies, and specifically this year I'm working closely with the European Commission on a smart city project. So we're looking for technologies that are available that can be used to engage with citizens. So I came last year for general sort of observation, and this year was much more specific purposes.
That's interesting. So you mentioned smart cities. That's the thing that we started talking about last year. You're one of these experts who can talk both languages, if you like, because you understand all the language that the urban planners and the smart cities experts talk about, but you can translate it into digital signage, digital out of home, and technology terms. Is that fair to say? Yes,
I'm a connector and translator, so I find that a lot of industries, arts, academics, governance, technology, industry, they're really siloed. They work in their own different fields and they translate to their customers, but they don't typically work between multiple areas of interest. And that's a lot of what I do, is I work with a lot of different industry sectors.
Now you must find at ISE, ISE is one of the largest shows, well, it's the largest AV show in the world. 1,600 exhibitors, I think. I don't know how many tens of thousands of square foot. 65 to 70,000 people. How do you find your way around a show like this? Because you're narrowing in on, you're not interested in audio or video conferencing, I suspect.
Correct.
How do you narrow your search when you come here?
It's difficult because there's a company called Oblong. The product they have is Mezzanine. And I mention this because they were the founder of this organization was the one that consulted with Spielberg to create the interface for Minority Report. But they're over here in Unified Systems. So just walking around what we consider digital signage or media communications or interactivity, it's not in one area. So you really have to wander around a lot of different places, and that's difficult. How companies present themselves, what their technologies are really doing, it's difficult to interpret. You have to look, get involved in conversations, understand the product features, but more importantly, you understand the vision and the direction that the company is trying to take, and I think that's more of an indication.
That's interesting. It's an interesting analogy. I guess digital signage, when it started off in one hall and was tiny and then grew to be a massive hall. It's moved halls a couple of times. But digital signage is on probably everybody's stand throughout the show. So as the technology matures, you can find it all over the place, which makes it harder for you to find, I guess.
It does make it hard for me to find. I was actually at the first Digital Sign Expo in San Francisco in 2005. And it was amazing then because you had a lot of very innovative companies and you had a lot of investors walking around. Here you have a lot of advanced technology companies, some new cutting edge companies, and a lot of customers. So your attendance and your audience is very different. But it is difficult to find the companies that I'm interested in. You have to wander around a lot of different places.
Tell us a little bit about the Digital Placemaking Institute. You're working for that or part of that consortium. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yes. My employer is Urban Screen Productions, Urban Screens TV, based out of Australia, but they are partnering with Project for Public Spaces in New York, which is a preeminent placemaking consultancy, to create a new digital placemaking institute in Australia. So they have a partnership project with a university and with a community multi-purpose center to create a development alley where they have a lot of digital placemaking going on. It's an interesting field. What is digital placemaking? Understanding what the potentials are, that's what we try to investigate, and that's one of the other reasons I'm here, is to find these new next generation technologies to report back to the digital placemaking group on what's to come.
If there was, are there a couple of companies that you can see visibly? I mean, you're a good, well, it's a good example. It's great that you're an observer of our industry, if you like, from slightly outside. Are there a couple of companies that you immediately associate with smart cities, or is there nothing at all that you associate with smart cities?
It's interesting. I spoke with someone at Intel this afternoon, and when I asked them where is smart cities on the development phase, they said it's still in the stormy phase. It's still in development. It hasn't really realized their true value. There's the question that they're answering as to why. And when I look at the smart cities, that's really where it is. They're trying to solve their problem. First, it was about implementing technology and sustainability, and now they realize there's no take-up. So they need to involve their citizens to really create these futures. So I think it's an evolutionary process. What that means to the companies here, I think it's an industry. Right. It's a target market. They're selling to this vertical of hospitality and corporate, and they're selling to this vertical called smart cities. Typically, it's connected, it's user centric, it's around efficiencies, but it's just a target market.
Okay, so let me ask you again from a view outside of our bubble. I mean, in the digital out-of-home industry, we see, or we're pitched, that New York is one of the best examples of this stuff. I personally think that we forget how good JCDecaux have been doing with street furniture stuff in Paris and pretty much all over the world, for like 50 years or so now. But in the smart cities community and the urban media community you belong to, are there examples of cities that we don't know about, or just good examples generally that we should be looking at?
Of smart cities, Barcelona is doing a very good job. Santander in Spain is actually a very well-connected city. London is not doing bad. Amsterdam, I like the programs that they have with communities. Okay. They're very experimental here in Netherlands. They're very connected to people. Within Europe, it's interesting. There isn't as much innovation as in the States. It's just the nature of being risk-averse and businesses and people wanting to find things that are secure. So there's much less innovation. So I see innovating ideas coming out of the US, but there's a lot of very innovative ideas, people in Europe, but they're just not implementing as much.
That's interesting. Now, it's good that we've got you to come to ISE for at least 2 years in a row, and hopefully you'll be back in the future. But what other are there shows for smart cities, or what big events in your world that you would suggest that people from the digital signage or digital out-of-home industry who are interested in smart cities should go to?
In smart cities, it's interesting. One of the events that I've been going to is in Berlin called Transmedial, and it's art, technology, and society. And these are artists experimenting with how technology and media are used in society. So they really challenge our understanding of what the future is. And if I look at what digital out-of-home can learn, I think they can learn from artists. The smart city events are typically the status quo, what's happening now. And I think that understanding different sort of perspectives of media, perspectives of urban spaces, I think that would be helpful to advancing the industry. But in speaking to organizations here, some companies I think look towards the future of what urban spaces are going to be like. I think other people are following passively or responding to the needs. But it also comes a lot to individuals. There's individuals within the companies that have ideas or ideologies that want this better future in these smart cities, but it really comes up to the person and more of a philosophy within the organization. It's less a product strategy. It's less of a business strategy that people have.
Well, my last question is, I mean, you've been at the show for a few days now. You may have seen all you need to see. Is there one thing that you're going to go away back home within your mind? One idea or one product or something that you've seen that has got you really excited?
I liked Oblong as this mezzanine as a collaborative, interactive sort of platform. I like that as a citizen engagement tool. It's a way for cities to communicate with citizens, for citizens to engage. That was very interesting. One of the things that also struck me is the through-screen LED displays that are coming out now. They've always been there, but there's the propensity, there's so many more of them. There's so many of these vendors that have these through screen, and you have a big segmentation between the dense LEDs and the higher resolution. Those higher resolutions they're getting very nice. So that's kind of a visual takeaway, and I'm not really a display person. They always keep getting bigger and bigger, brighter, and more resolution, but it was interesting to see this as a trend. Yes.
John Zib, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Nice to see you again.